Thank you. So the first step of getting oriented, feeling comfortable in the software, and then you can create some workflows for how you're going to use it. So this webinar will get you oriented, but it is not the final answer in all of your QuickBooks learning. Our fourth one, you want to set up QuickBooks to maximize on your investment. So what I mean here, you've already paid or are planning to pay for QuickBooks. So this webinar will show you some steps to use the different features, get the most out of them. And lastly, you want to spend some time minimizing the time that you spend working on the books. So the more that you automate, the less time you'll need to spend manually filling in and updating information and accounts. I'm just going to jump into our learning objectives. So time allows, these are the things we'll be covering here. Choosing the right QuickBooks software. We've got some acronyms. QuickBooks QBO is QuickBooks Online, QBD being QuickBooks Desktop. Look at some of the different packages and pricing. Section 2 will cover some basic navigation. We'll be using Business View, and I'll show you kind of what that means, what that is. Number 3 will be setting up your company. So some options for customizing your invoices, the look of your company, different options for your QuickBooks account. We'll also look at adding in some bank feeds. For this next one, we've got adding customers and vendors. So you can add these one at a time. You can add them in bulk, and we'll show you how to do that. We've got adding products and services. This allows you to add in some of the things that your business may be selling or offering. And by adding in these products and services, you'll get a finer level of detail in your financial reports. And lastly, we're going to enter a few new transactions here. So we're going to try to enter a bill, maybe an invoice and an estimate. So if we have enough time at the end here, we'll enter in some transactions. So to get us started here, this is our section 1, which is choosing the right QuickBooks software. So essentially, you've got 2 options here, right? You've got QBO and desktop. So QBO is QuickBooks Online versus desktop, which is QuickBooks Desktop. So what is QuickBooks? QuickBooks is essentially an accounting software designed for small businesses. And I've kind of broken it down into a few different categories here. One thing I do want you to consider when looking at these pricing options, there are a lot of different, so there's 30-day free trials, there's introductory discounts, there's ongoing monthly billing discounts if you're kind of ordering QuickBooks through your accountant, your bookkeeper, or your tax advisor. So when looking at some of these pricing options, definitely consider you might be able to get a lower introductory rate, usually 3 months half off. Or as I mentioned, if you have a bookkeeper, they usually can offer you like a 30% discounted price on some of these options. And sorry, I just wanted to kind of review some of these items here. So we've got pricing. You can look at the 1 month, 1 year, or 3-year pricing. So I know for QuickBooks Desktop, that's usually a 3-year option. And I just broke down what that cost would look like if you were paying, if you happen to look at what that eventually costs you month over month. For QuickBooks Online, that's going to be a monthly subscription option. You can cancel anytime, you're not tied in. For desktop, that's a 3-year license. It's a one-time purchase, and then you're pretty much locked in on that product for the remainder of that license. As far as access goes, QuickBooks Online, cloud-based, anywhere access. You've got some apps you can integrate. Gives you a lot more flexibility there. More complex businesses often want that option of having their QuickBooks be locally hosted. That means that it's not really necessarily accessible just online in the cloud. It actually is tied to a specific desktop computer. That's kind of what locally hosted means if you're not familiar with that. The general consensus is that QuickBooks Online, better for small businesses. It's a little bit faster. It's got some app integrations. There's time tracking features. It's pretty easy to invite people in to collaborate, whether that's fellow coworkers, someone, if you hired someone to do accounts payable in-house, also for outside contractors to access if you need to. And desktop, general consensus, better for medium and more complex business. The reason being, it's just more customizable, allows you a little bit more complexity. has a higher number of accounts that you can tie into the software itself, and usually more users allowed in there. So you might have a larger business, you've got someone handling your accounts payable and your accounts receivable, maybe a comptroller, all those people needing access. So that's just a really high level overview there of kind of some different options between online and desktop. I wanted to hop out of this real quick here and just show you some of the how to find out a little bit more about what's in each of these products and the pricing. So I'm actually just gonna hop right out here. This is our guide for, this is just their link. So right, this is QuickBooks, Intuit, pricing. So this is QuickBooks Online. It's just gonna show you, right? I mean, they have 4 essentially products, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can really drill down. As I mentioned, you can see some of these discounts, right? They're trying to get you in at a lower price. So that's, you know, a great option for, especially for a trial run. And then you can see all the different things that that are offered as far as part of these packages. And then once you go to the bottom, you'll see things that are included in one and perhaps not the other. So just as far as when you're looking at what's right for your business, I suggest reviewing all the features here in the pricing guide, maybe even asking other folks in your industry, hey, what do you guys use? Yeah, you have QuickBooks Online, do you need Plus, why? Also, never a bad idea to add a professional. Your bookkeeper probably has an opinion on this. Maybe an accountant might also have an opinion on what you need to do. And so that's sort of what it looks like for the pricing here for online. And just to jump over, this is similarly, they have it laid out for QuickBooks Desktop, right? So you can select your number of users here. You have some options for looking at Pro Plus, Premier, Enterprise, and it's going to break down all of these different features for you. So depending on what your business needs are specifically, I think this is the best way to just really sit down, take a look. Hey, you know, I really need 200 plus reports. So you might need to go for that enterprise solution. You know, it just really does depend on the nuances and complexity of your business. All right, guys. So from here, I'm going to kind of hop back into my slides here. And actually, we're going to head over to our live demonstration. And just to show you sort of basically, we're going to cover some basic navigation, setting up your company, customers and vendors, products and services, and new transactions. So from there, let's dive on in. So our live demo today, this is going to happen QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop. So these things might look a little bit different depending on which version of the software that you're running. But a lot of times the basics should be the same. So as far as the navigation, some of the basic features, yeah. And so what I've done here is essentially pulled up, this is actually a sample company that's provided to us, happens to be Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. So we'll be using this demo company in order to show you around. First, what I wanted to mention, actually, I'm just going to point out our 3 main areas of navigation. So we're kind of on our QuickBooks screen here. First, I'm going to draw you to this new button here. This, we're going to go into these sections, but the new button is to add new transactions in. This might be a bill or an expense. We'll dive into that a little later, but you've also got your navigation bar. That's to the left here, all of these options to the side. So this is, I like to think of this as historical data, information that's already been put in, not necessarily usually for adding in information, but this is our navigation bar. The last section I'll draw your eye to is this tab right up here. So most importantly is going to be the gear icon. We'll be heading into this to do a few things, but just to draw your eye, these are our 3 main areas. We've got our new button, our navigation bar, and our tabs up here, including our gear button. First thing I'm going to do, we're in our sample company. I'd like to switch it over from accountant view to business view. So we're going to head to our gear, and I'm going to switch this to business view. So if you haven't set up an accounting view, there's none of that. I just wanted to mention it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more complicated in terms of the terminology that they use and the process that they use. It is geared towards an accounting professional. So switching over here to something like Business View, they've kind of taken out some of that accounting terminology. And if you look at our navigation bar over here, we've kind of condensed things a little bit. So it's just a little actionable. So that's, I just want to start there, and we will be doing our demonstration in Business View. Happy to send around these slides at the end of the presentation if that is helpful. And I just wanted to pop in here. Essentially, it's quickbooks.intuit.com/pricing or quickbooks.intuit.com/desktop. Honestly, if you want to go ahead and Google QuickBooks desktop pricing, I think it's going to lead you right here, as well as QuickBooks online pricing. And that second question there, yes, you can start with a small package and then add on. You can essentially level up into that next package of QuickBooks. So you can start small. As your needs grow for your business, you can always upgrade that membership and get access to some of those more options, more users, more account numbers. So that's a great question. But yes, that is always an option essentially to upgrade. So hopefully that helps you answer those questions. As I mentioned as well, I am more than happy to send around a copy of my slideshow at the end, which has those links. I also have at the end of this a couple pages of resources. Those are going to be links, links to QuickBooks videos, links to how-to guides, that kind of thing. So I'd be happy to send that around and make sure you guys have all this information. So hopefully that answers that. And I'm just going to kind of dive in here to our section 1, which was that basic navigation. And we're going to run over to our navigation tab. So this is our landing space here. It is the Getting Things Done tab. You may also hear this called the dashboard. They're going to give you a bit of a workflow, right? So, different steps to take care of, also actionable items, right? So you can see for our sample account, they have to review some transactions that have been fed in, they have to pay some bills. So that's sort of this getting things done area. Next thing I just wanted to show you is the business overview tab. This is also sometimes called the dashboard. It's going to show us some general metrics, right? So to start here, it usually shows us a little bit of a cash flow projection. We've got a quick view of our income and our expenses, which essentially is our profit and loss in a nutshell. I'm sorry that this is going a little bit slow for you, but just so you can get a feel for what's on this page for the business overview, you're going to see all of these different tiles to give you a really high level view of your expenses, unpaid invoices, your bank account balances. Yeah, that's our business overview tab. You can also see on the side here, you've got some other options, right? You can click in here to get to your reports. So access your reports like profit and loss, balance sheets. Do remember though, your books need to be up to date for these to be accurate and useful. I'm not going to click into everything here. We're going to click into a few things, but we'd be here all day if I click in on all of these. So I'll go over the things I think you need to know for intro. Some of these tools are a little bit more, advanced use. For example, the planner, this is a cash flow analysis tool. If you're looking to do long-term projected cash flow planning, that's a tool for that. We've also got an option to review some projects. So this is another kind of a little more complex item, but you can track income and expenses by project. If you've got a few projects that you're trying to keep an eye on, that's another way to do that. Head back to this navigation bar. You've got your banking tab. Let's see if this loads today for our sample company. If not, I also have some screenshots for it. So let's just hop into our screenshots. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so as I thought, this might not load, so I did some screenshots. So if you've never set up this banking tab, I just wanted to show you that it's going to give you some step-by-step ways to link your bank accounts and credit cards. There's going to be lots of online guides here, but in a nutshell, you press connect account, you type in the name of your bank, you log in using your online banking information, and it's going to auto feed your transactions into QuickBooks so that you can match and categorize them as you go. Now, if you already had this set up, this is essentially what it's going to look like here in your banking tab. I just wanted to show you here. So it would have, they've linked in our sample company a checking account, a savings account, and a MasterCard account. So you can see what the bank balance as reported on through their bank is. You can see that they're missing a few transactions to go through here. And so the numbers are different in QuickBooks versus what's in the bank. So once you finish at the end of the month, these will all be the same, but just to show you the accounts that have been linked here, you can always link more accounts using this button here. And we'll see some transactions that have come in as we had linked these accounts. So it's actually just feeding in these transactions. All right. And let's see, back to our live demo here. Let's go ahead, and I feel like this is where new business owners are going to spend a lot of their time is in the get paid and pay section. So I just wanted to show you in our navigation bar, they have it divided into an overview screen, which is where it's going to bring us right now. And then you've got get paid, you've got customers, invoices, payment links, products and services, or pay. And this is a link to our vendors. And I just wanted to mention, if you hadn't set anything up yet, they do have these little setup guides, right? So they were going to have set up customer payment options, maybe sending invoices. So you can look up here and see your setup options. And then I also want to show you some high level on some of the invoices and some shortcuts for those. So that's just in our overview in get paid and pay. And then I wanted to click into some of these options. So for get paid, we've got customers. This is going to list our customers and any open balances that are owed. It'll provide us with a high level infographic up top here that is clickable. So unbilled activity, overview. So these are all, or overdue, I'm sorry, invoices that we have created that either need to have action or have been actioned, right? Been paid. This is our customer tab. You can also drill it down. You can also see all the customers that have been added, right? We've got, if you wanted to just take a look at just the invoices, you've got this, which lists by date, invoice number, status, and customer. So able to filter through that way. Payment links, I'm not going to go in here, but this allows your customers to pay you with credit cards or bank transfers via QuickBooks. So if you want to sign up for payment processing with QuickBooks, that'll be happening there. And products and services, we'll dive into this a little bit later on in section 5, but that's essentially one way to access that is through this get paid and pay tab, products and services. And lastly, on this tab, we've got our vendors. This is going to look very similar to our customer list, right? Or customer center. So same kind of thing. You've got a list of all of your different vendors, purchase orders, unpaid accounts payable, items that have to go out. Also just wanted to show you briefly, ways to add in vendors and prepare 1099s for these guys that are existing vendors. All right, so I'm going to go back over to our navigation tab about halfway through here. Just wanted to show you some of these last tabs. You've got payroll. So if you wanted to actually use QuickBooks for your payroll services, they give you an option to kind of get that tied in this way. You can also add your employees here. A lot of people will use a third-party application in order to sync some of this information. So I know Gusto is a popular one. So a lot of people use an outside third-party app to do some of their payroll items and then actually just have that link back here. So you've got your employee tab, you've got a contractor tab, which is going to look just like the employee tab actually, but have some items for filling out those 1099s.
We have a question
Yeah,
from
go ahead.
Brenda, and she says, would you recommend linking only business accounts or personal accounts as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a bookkeeper, I am a big proponent of not piercing the corporate veil, which essentially just means keeping those things very separate. So I do not link in a personal account. I link in the business related accounts. And I try to keep all of the personal items separate. It's also going to keep you accountable for making sure that you're using your business accounts for business purposes and not dipping back over. I know that the rare instance might come up where you're paying for things on your personal card that should have to go for the business. It can be a little bit tricky of how to make your books accurate in order to cover personal spending. I know that if you accidentally buy something on your business account that's actually for personal use, we would essentially list that as like an owner's draw, right? Like you're actually taking money out of the company to buy something for yourself. So anyway, in a nutshell, link those business accounts and try as much as you can to just keep all of the business accounts dealing with your business transactions. That would be my advice. And hopefully that answers that question, but happy to follow up at the end here if that wasn't clear. I just want to show you this as well. This is interestingly enough, a little tab for compliance, but if you're looking for workers' compensation, you can get quotes right here through QuickBooks. So that's there for you. All right, guys, there's a couple more tabs that I wanted to run you through here. We've got our bookkeeping tab. That's going to have a list of transactions. If this was already linked in here, actually we'll just skip this, but it would show you similar to the banking feed, but it's going to just be by whichever account that we're looking at. So here's that business checking account. It's going to fill in with all of our different transactions for us to categorize and review. Rules, you can essentially set it up. For example, let's say every time you let's just say that you are a landscaper, right? Every time that you go to this certain vendor who sells grass, you're buying sod for grass. You can essentially automate that so that every time you make that purchase from that vendor, it will apply a rule. Look, he went back to go buy grass. We know what that purchase is for. Let's auto categorize that. So that's what rules are. The chart of accounts, this is going to list all of the accounts that we're working with as far as your accounting system goes and your business. Just a quick word of caution here. I wouldn't just run in here and kind of blow this up and change things around too much. This is sort of the backbone of your accounting system. So you can even see they give you a warning, right? Take a peek. They don't automatically send you there, but you could dive in and take a look at all of the different accounts you're using if that's something you're curious about. Tags, this gives us the ability, kind of just like on social media, right? You can just put in different terms and tags and be able to track transactions or group things together. And you can drill this down in your reporting if that's something that's useful for you. Just another quick thing to show you here. You've also got a, your list of to access some experts. So if you click in here to My Accountant, you could invite a bookkeeper or CPA to review your QuickBooks account. And the last one here is Reconcile. So this is a super important step in your financial cycle. It does close out your books. We will touch on this a little bit more in that upcoming QuickBooks class, but I just wanted to show you, at least for now, getting around where all of these items live. Let's say every time you went to Office Depot, it was for office supplies. You could track that in, right? So you go to Office Depot, you pay with your card. Essentially, if you have that linked, QuickBooks will see, oh, here a transaction came in from Office Depot. She had set up a rule letting us know every time she goes to Office Depot that it should auto categorize it as a office supply expense. that will pretty much, it will auto match that in almost real time in QuickBooks. At that point, you'll just have to go in and click like accept. You know, it's already done the matching work for you. It's fed in that transaction and you just have to say, yep, you did that right. Thank you. And that's essentially, that would be it. Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question for us there. And I just have a few last things over in the navigation bar to show you. Last two items, we've got taxes and apps. So I'm just going to click into this tax bar. We've got options to set up our sales tax for any of our products that we're selling. This is going to ask us essentially where we live and try to match our tax needs to that. And sorry if that's being a little bit slow. You could also, when you talk to your tax advisor, you know, these are where you can make any adjustments you need to those sales tax items. This is also another way to link in those 1099 filing details. So in order to quickly access some of those things, gives you a little details about that. And let's see if it gives us sales tax again. There we go. So double check your business address, tell us what agencies you're using, and it's going to walk you through some steps to set up and track your sales tax questions. And just last thing here in this navigation bar, we've got our apps. These, as I mentioned, a lot of people use third-party apps to essentially make using QuickBooks easier. So you might use an app like Expensify to take pictures of your receipts, and then you can autofill those into QuickBooks. So I just wanted to show you, these are some of the approved apps that you might, you know, link in. So if you use Square, if you're an Etsy, Etsy type of person, these are approved and already integrated for QuickBooks. Of course, this is going to be online and not necessarily desktop version for the apps. And that's going to hold true for all of desktop. Is not necessarily built to integrate with apps. I think it's just because they're updated so frequently, and online QuickBooks can update very frequently. However, desktop, they're going to have to push out those updates to people. It takes a little bit longer, but so hopefully that kind of shows you what was over in our navigation bar here. I just wanted to also pop up to our new button. So this is essentially, I'm just going to click in here. This is our one-stop shop for creating new transactions. You can see that they've got it divided into customers, vendors, employees, and other. We will be back here later in our demonstration when we're adding new transactions. But I just wanted to show you that this is a way to add in new things, right? So adding an invoice, adding a credit memo. You need to make a purchase order, maybe an expense. So this is where you would go in to actually add in essentially new items, just sort of a one-stop shop there.
Ali, I have a new question. Brenda is saying, if I make any transfers out for personal reasons, let's say I send my son money for non-business related reasons, would that be categorized owner's draw? And it's a question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I don't want to give like blanket advice because, you know, I of course haven't looked at your books or anything, but if you are making a personal expenditure out of your business account, yes, that is essentially considered an owner's draw. So that's money that you have taken out of the business for personal reasons and are sending elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, yeah, in general, I can't think of a lot of situations where that would not be the case. But yeah, in that example, you know, sending money to your son, or, you know, you ended up going out to dinner with some friends and you just had the different card. Exactly. That would be an owner's draw because it's not a business expense. So not necessarily tied up back to the business. I'm just going to hop back in here. So we've kind of got our new tab, and just the very last section I wanted to show you guys was, I call this the gear tab because gear is where I most often am if I'm over in these settings. But let's see, I just wanted to show you, I'm going to actually hop into the gear here, as I mentioned. This is where you're going to come when we're customizing our company settings. And we will be back here, but just to sort of show you around, you've got your company, which lists accounts and settings, managing our users, custom form styles, another way to get back to that chart of accounts, and QuickBooks Labs. So if you're looking to get experimental or turn on like dark mode, this is your jam. You've got a list, this is my favorite, a list of lists. So that's actually going to be like customer list, product and service list, chart of accounts, but we've got products and services here, reoccurring transactions. You've got, let's see, custom fields and tags, and then you've got some other tools here. So if you get to that point where you're looking to export data, some ways to just jump in and check out all of their different tools that they have. So I just wanted to, okay, we're kind of up in the gear here. So that's sort of different information for you to get to there. And just the last things that are sort of up here, I just wanted to show you my experts. So this would be where you're going to go in if you wanted to, if you had messages from your accountant and bookkeeper, this would be where that information would come from. Or if you had already linked up with somebody and they had questions for you, those would show up there. Your help button. So this is actually a few different things. It's going to get you to a videos, overviews, options to contact QuickBooks for help. And it's also going to be some search options. So if you are needing help, that question button is going to allow you to just type in some quick searches as well. I don't want to spend too much time waiting for that to get open. As you can see, kind of has a chat bot and a general search function. You've got the bell, which will show you some alarms, and then this blue area, this would actually be your Intuit account. So if you needed to look at managing your subscription, any of that, you will find that there.
Ali, I have a new question. Maria asked, what type of attachments should you attach on the lists? She asked receipts, copies, etc. So I guess.
Yeah, when you're attaching documentation, it's any documentation that you happen to have. So if you have an invoice, if you have a receipt, if you just started a loan, it might be that loan paperwork or the amortization schedule. If you just bought a new vehicle, right? It might be the paperwork that you signed on that. The more documentation, definitely the better. If you get a chance to review that QuickBooks, or I'm sorry, that Introduction to Bookkeeping course that we presented with MCSC a couple weeks ago, I go over all of the different types of source documents that you would want to be attaching. But my 2 cents on it is the more documentation, the better. Anything that you have that can show proof of your purchases or any documentation of your actions, go ahead and attach that in. So then it's an expense. It might just be something like a receipt. If it is, you know, maybe a copy of a physical purchase order or a request or something from a vendor, but that's definitely, QuickBooks will give you an area to attach in documentation. If you're using QuickBooks Online, you can use the app to take pictures of receipts and email those in and attach those as well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into, essentially that was our orientation. So in a nutshell, I was hoping, you know, you'd get a little bit familiar with the 3 areas, right? So you've got up here, you've got your gear, you've got your navigation bar to the left with all of these options, as well as your new button. So now that you do know those 3 main areas, we're going to go ahead and take a look at setting up your company. So this is going to be how to customize your account. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the ways to add in transactions. So for customizing our account, I'm going to go ahead and head back over to the gear, open this up. I'm going to head into account and settings, just sort of show you guys what's in here. And while this sort of loads up for a moment, there's a few different categories in here, but we're going to have, going to be, while this loads, company, usage, sales, expenses, time, and advance. There they are. The first thing that I just wanted to show you was when we get to the company setting. Let's see here. This is going to give us an option to customize things as we get into it. Let's see if we'll. Sorry guys, just a moment. There we go. So we got company, and this is where I wanted to be. So we're talking about customizing our account. If you wanted to head into that account and settings, which was in that gear tab, and to company, you can do things like add in a logo. You can update your company name and your EIN, your company type and contact info, address and addresses. Anything that you put into this screen here, this is going to auto-populate when you get to things like setting up invoices, tax forms, reports, etc. So rather than typing it in every time, you know, Craig's Design and Landscaping, all this info here in the accountant settings company is going to auto-populate. So drop your logo in there and get that all updated. Some of these other items here, as far as customization, you might go into your usage. It's going to tell you how many users you have, how many chart of accounts. Customization also on the sales tab. So this is going to have a ton of options as far as what's going to show up on the forms that you send to your customers. So this might be invoicing, this might be estimates. But you can see you can turn on and off certain things, right? Do you want to have the service date on or off there? You know, the ability to show discounts. Do you want to show what products and services you're using on the form? Yes or no? All of these options. And then I did want to jump into the customize the look and feel. So this essentially is going to bring us to an area to customize the way that our invoices and all of the things that are going to our clients look. It's going to bring us to custom form styles. You can put in a new style here, choose, you know, what you're doing. So maybe an invoice. And from here, it's going to give us some options, right? As far as customizing, you can talk about the design of it, the content. So what pieces are going in here. What I like about this is if you wanted to, you know, change your logo, change the coloring of it, fonts, or even when you email or send this to somebody, what's all the messaging look like? Hey, it's attached, thank you. So these are all very customizable. So just options for making your company represent you and making sure that the items that are going out to your clients are the best looking that they can be. So just gonna done this. I'll head back. All right, so that was sort of a sales tab there. Just a moment, get this up and going.
I have a question from Claudia. She is saying, what is the difference between the app QuickBooks Accounting and QuickBooks Self-Employed?
Yeah, so QuickBooks Self-Employed is just the kind of the intro version to QuickBooks. So it's going to have some of the basic features of QuickBooks, but it's not going to have some of the more advanced features. So I don't believe it has things like reporting or the ability to process invoicing. It's going to allow you to track your transaction, you know, your expenses and your income. It might do time tracking or mileage tracking. But essentially, if you remember when we looked at that pricing sheet and there were the 4 categories, you could call self-employed that a 5th category, and it would just be the most introductory level category. So it's a similar product. It just doesn't have as much customization or complexity as some of the other products. So hopefully that helps answer that question. All right, so we're just back at our custom form style. So I was going to just jump back into that accountant settings, went back to that gear, accountant settings. All right, and so we're just talking a little bit about customizing everything. So as I mentioned, first we're in the company, get onto usage. And thank you everyone for your patience. This live demo was a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, so we did some customization here. Same thing, right? Sales, you can customize what's going into all of those invoices or, you know, reminders, any of that. And custom or expenses, similarly, if you wanted to change some of the settings that are automated here. I just wanted to show you, you've also got time. So if you were doing time tracking or if you were time tracking for your workers, that's something you can look into here. And advanced, that's going to get into some accounting information and advanced features like projects, classes, some different functions. So that's something that you're curious about and you wanted to look into, that is there. So hopefully you're feeling a little oriented with the ability, you know, where you can hop in to make this more customizable. So if you are, you know, you've been using QuickBooks a little bit and you want to, you know, make sure that some of the settings are adjusted to you and that the items that you're sending out are branded. That was there in that gear icon, accountant settings. Also, you can just hop right in. If you were just looking to customize some of those invoices, you can hop right to custom form styles. So those are some customization options as far as where you can go in to make some changes, feel around on the look of your QuickBooks account. So now that we've covered a few customizations, I just want to consider how we'll be adding in those transactions that we looked like. So what I mean by adding in transactions is setting up those bank feeds to automate adding in future transactions and or uploading the past transactions if you're just trying to get up to date. Let's see if our banking tab might be working today. All right, no. So I just wanted to mention then, if that's not working, if you are, we'll go over to, where was that? The bookkeeping and transactions, just to kind of take a look at something that would be similar looking. Let's just hop in here. So as you can see here, this is a bank account that has already been linked, right? And it's going to go ahead and show all of the different transactions that have come through that individual banking account. So if you had never been to this page before, essentially transactions or banking, there's going to just be a handful of prompts. It's really going to guide you right through. So they're going to essentially have you you're going to link to your account and then let's see if we can take a look here. So you would link to your account. We're not going to walk through this whole part of the demonstration, but in a nutshell, right, it's going to have you pick what bank you're trying to link to. You're then going to log in using your online banking information. And honestly, voila, it's just going to ask you how far back you want to pull transactions from. So you might want to start at the beginning of your fiscal year. You might want to ask your accountant, you know, hey, how far back should I go? And it's going to pull in transactions. And we can see, for example, I'm just going to skip this page here, but it's going to show us all of the different transactions that have been pulled in automatically, right? So all of these have come through this checking account. And from there, you can go ahead and categorize those and match those back to your chart of accounts. So that is one option, right, for getting in that, for getting in these transactions is to link that account. Your second option for getting information in would be to upload from a file. Sorry, I'm going to take some water. So if you are not able to link your bank account or you don't want to for some reason, you can essentially go to your bank. You're going to download a file with all of your transactions. And from there, it's actually just going to let you could essentially upload your transactions from that file. And it's just going to go ahead, so you can drag and drop it if you've got one of these. So these are, like I mentioned, these are the two ways to bring in transactions, right? You can automatically feed them, or you can manually upload those using a file. So there are going to be a lot of guides online as far as how to do this. QuickBooks itself will walk you through step by step, but these are the options: manually upload or bring in transactions automatically. I'll give you some links as well if this is a step that you need to take. There's plenty of step-by-step guides out there for how that should work. So
Maria asks, can the checking link get the data back for years?
That's a good question. So the checking link, it can go back. It's going to depend on your bank. So most banks don't keep years worth of transaction files available, right? So when you might, how if you go onto online banking and you want to see transactions from maybe even a year ago, you actually have to open up a PDF, like they're not live loading that information anymore. So you might not be able to link back a couple of years of data. That's going to be dependent on your bank account itself. However, if you're not able to automatically link some of the older information, that's when you might be manually uploading previous years of data. So if you have to go back and maybe download a CSV of, a couple years ago and then upload it that way, that might be how you have to do that if it's giving you trouble with the automated feed, because I know the automated feed oftentimes will only go back, maybe 6 or 7 months, kind of depending on the bank, as I mentioned. But if you need to go further back from that, there is a way to essentially upload that data. And yeah, that's what I would do. Try to go as far back as you could with the information being pulled, right? With the linked bank account. And if it won't let you go as far back as you need to, at that point, you might be downloading month to month or quarterly statements and then uploading the transactions that way. All right. Okay, so that essentially got us covered for kind of the setting up your company. So just to review that, the two kind of items that I included in setting up your company, we're going to the gear icon here, right? Adjusting accounts and settings, maybe customizing your form styles, right? Adding in your logo, changing the name of your company, all that good stuff. And then the other part of setting up your company, I just wanted to talk about how you're going to add in and link those banking and credit card accounts that you already have. And the two options for doing that was to either link the account so that it's auto feeding or manually uploading those transactions. All right, so with that, we're going to head into section number 4. So our section number 4 here, we're going to actually add in some customers and vendors. So I'm going to head over to my navigation bar, which is over to the left. I'm going to go over to Get Paid and Pay, because we're gonna start with adding a customer. So I went over to Paid and Paid, Get Paid and Pay. Gonna go ahead and pop into our customers. And as you saw, we could do the same thing. It's going to be customers or vendors here, but we're in our customers tab. I'm going to go ahead and add in a new customer. I also wanted to point out, if you needed to identify customer types, there's an option for that. So if you define between, residential and commercial, or walk-in versus online, there's a way to sort of drill into the categories you have. But for now, I just wanted to show you this. So we've got new customer. You can add an individual, or you can import. So this would be to bulk add. If you have a full list, right? Let's say you already have a spreadsheet, it's got 200 customers in it, their addresses, all the things. You can actually just do that in one batch through the import customers. It'll walk you through step by step. It's going to try to map your data to make sure that it's filling out the right categories. But for now, I'm just going to open up this new customer field so you can sort of see what kind of fields that they have set up here. Keep in mind, you can put in information for what you want out of these, and then but you don't have to fill in information for anything other than what they have starred here, right? So for the purposes of the rest of this demonstration, just want to do a quick example. So as you remember, we have our sample company open, right? It's a landscaping company. Let's say we've got a customer and she's going to buy some landscaping items. Let's see if it'll let us. All right, we're not going to wait too long on this part of the demo because it's not crucial, but essentially you could type in any of this info, right? You could add the phone number, add the email, add any of that. Once you save, it's going to save that customer for you. And essentially it would just add it into your customer list and it would show up right down here. If you add an email address, phone number, etc. And then as I mentioned, if you wanted to bulk add, you could just do that with the import customers area. And then once you're in that client screen, you can see they do give you some options, right? If you just wanted to create a trend, like a sale or estimate or something for one specific customer, you can actually just jump in on the side there. If we head back over, get paid to the pay area, and we head into our vendors, you're going to see it's pretty much the same options, right? You've got that 1099 though, that's another sort of option there, but you could go down here and add in a new vendor, and same type of thing. They're going to ask you a bunch of information. You can fill out as much or as little as you want to. You can also, if you want to open someone up, you could make them inactive. If you had a vendor that was already in here that you didn't want to have anymore, you can go ahead and click on that. But you can see all these different options for setting up your vendor, display name. If you wanted to track payments for their 1099, that's an option here. And so that's where you're going to add in either individual or bulk vendor information. Okay. So in a nutshell, that is literally how you add in customers and vendors. The really nice part about sort of adding these things in advance is that when you do go to create a transaction, it's going to autofill all this information for you so that you're not filling it in every time. So we'll go ahead, we'll take a look at that when we have time at the end for overviewing some transactions. But before we do that, I just want to go to one last area here, and that's to our essentially section 5, which was adding products and services. Two different ways to get there. We're already in the get paid and pay section, so you can go to products and services here. Alternatively, back up to our gear, we've got products and services also right here. So in QuickBooks, there's often many ways to get to the same page, right? So you don't necessarily have to know exactly where to go, kind of click into these 3 main areas and there'll be a way to get there. What I wanted to show you here, as I mentioned, this is our example company. We've already got some products and services that they have listed. You can see they have services, they've got inventory, all these different things. But what I wanted to show you here is, I'm going to actually start with more. This is how you're going to manage categories for different items that you're running, and it's going to help you tie back in your reporting. So for example, if you only wanted to, for this company, they want to see, hey, how much did we just make on, doing the fountain work versus, when we did some landscaping or installing sprinklers. This will allow you to drill back when you do your reporting and actually see, like, okay, like it wasn't just sales, right? The general category, that was actually design sales or landscaping sales. And it's going to help you get a more granular image of where the money is coming in and out related to your business expenses and income. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that those are the product categories. And then from here, they actually have the new button onto our right-hand side if we wanted to add a new product and service. So I wanted to click on that to just show you the different categories of, not import. When you click on adding in a product or service, it's actually going to show you all the different options for what the products and services would be. So you've got inventory products, right? This is going to track the quantities. So if you're tracking the quantities of things as they're coming in and coming out, you're going to add an inventory item. Now, I will mention it is possible to track inventory using QuickBooks, but it's usually not recommended if you have really complex inventory needs. Once again, that's one of those things that you might want to use a third-party app like Fishbowl, SOS Inventory. There are applications that might feed into QuickBooks that help you manage this, but as far as just if you are getting started, you need a place to kind of keep track of things. They do have some options for inventory. You've also got non-inventory, right? So if you just had to buy something one time and then you were directly selling it to a customer, you might not need that inventory kind of tracking on that item. So there's non-inventory. You've got services. So this might be something, you know, I know for our example, a landscaper doing landscaping services, mowing services, and then you might have something like a bundle, right? So if you're selling, I know for our example company here, if you're installing sprinklers and then you actually have to sell them the physical sprinkler, you might make that a bundle, right? And it's going to just show you, it's going to add in those items all together. So just wanted to click into one of these and just sort of give you an example, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add an inventory item. Let's just pretend our landscaping company wants to get into the garden gnome game. See if we'll let us in here. Essentially, you could add the name of the item. So I would put in garden gnome. If I was tracking a SKU on my end, I would put in the SKU there. We've got some categories. So if we had added a category, for example, maybe I had added a category of garden gnomes. I want to see how this garden gnome thing is going. Maybe I add it there, or, you know, okay, this is part of our design work, add it as a design item. You can add in the description. This will be on the sales form, so the client would see that. You can also see very vaguely, like kind of in there, right? The description is on the sales form. Going to say where it ties into which account. So when a sale of this item is made, this is going to tie back to sales of product and income. If you've got sales tax applied, and also some purchasing information. So maybe, okay, it was item number, you know, 234 when I bought it from Gnomes R Us, right? So you can actually track that information right here. You would just save and close that. And then when you go to do something like make an invoice, you can actually pull that information up. So that's essentially what you need to know for adding in, sorry about this, this computer's being a little slow, but as far as adding in new products and services, it's literally just going to that products and services tab or to the gear here and then adding in products and services. It's going to allow you to put in how much you're selling it for, right? So for example, this pump, they're selling for 15, it costs them 10. They have 25 of these on hand. Those are taxable. So just a high level view at all the different products and services available. Now, I know we're kind of getting to the end of our time here. So I just wanted to essentially try to get in one or two kind of example transactions. Okay. So once you've got all those steps that we've already done, and I know that was a bit of a whirlwind, but right, you kind of did some orientation as far as navigation. We got you set up your company. So you did some customization, added in some bank accounts. You've added some customers and some vendors. You've added some products. Now let's go ahead and enter a new transaction. So let's just click out of that. All right. To enter a new transaction, as I mentioned, you're going to head to this new button. There we go. There it is, new. And just to get started, you can see sort of all your different options here, right? You've got things going to customers, things going to vendors. Let's go ahead and type in, we're going to make a bill here. All right. So let's use that gnome example that I was mentioning. Let's say you got 30 gnomes and Gnomes R Us sent you that bill. You got to put that in, right? You're going to go to new. You chose on that bill, and it's going to open up a screen here for us to fill in some of our information for that bill. There we go. So if you had already added that vendor, you'd be able to essentially just type in that that vendor right now, right? So I know it was giving us a little slowness just because of my internet here, but let's say Bob's Burger Joint was actually selling us those gnomes, and then you could type in, it autofills everything we've got in here, right? All right, and he wanted it was 30-day terms. Type in the bill number, and we're going to add in. I know we were kind of using the example of gnomes, but I didn't get to do that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and type in sprinklers. Oh man, not going the speed I want it to. Well, what I'll actually show you here first is this is the bill, right? So you've got categories and you've got items as far as what you could add onto the bill. So as we mentioned, we wanted to buy a few, we bought 30 items. I called them gnomes, but since I don't have gnomes queued in here, oh man, computer slowness. But you could essentially type in the product that you're buying, how many of them that you got, how much you were paying for them, and then you're going to have evidence of that bill here. You can essentially, once you've made all that information here, right? Let's say you spend $100 on gnomes. At that point, you could save and actually schedule the payment to go out. So if you said, hey, that payment's due in 30 days, why don't you go ahead and pay it via the MasterCard on that day? You can actually go ahead and schedule your payment from this screen, or you could just save it and come back to that later. It won't schedule a payment if you just were to hit on that save. I just wanted to try to get in one or two other transactions just to kind of give you the general feel for how that would work. But once again, a new transaction, you're going to go to your plus new button. In this example, let's go ahead and create an estimate. So let's say we have a client who wanted to get some service done, and we wanted to go ahead and make them an estimate, right? Same thing. A lot of these items, if you had already entered a customer, you'll be able to type something in and it's essentially going to pull those up. Also has the option if you just wanted to add on the fly, right? Add a new customer right there, type in the information and go from there. That's definitely not a problem. So if you had already added the customer, it's going to populate all of this information. You're just going to add in, hey, you wanted lawn mowing service for 2 hours. If you had already added your product and service, a lot of this is also going to auto populate. You might update the quantity or how much they want to do, any notes that you wanted to put into the estimate. And from there, you could essentially save and send that estimate to a client, and or just save that estimate and maybe come back to it at a later date. One thing that's awesome about QuickBooks as well is if you have created an estimate and then you wanted to turn that into an invoice, it's actually pretty automated as well, right? So if you had created an estimate and then you went over here and you said, oh, actually, it's a week later and they want to go for it and they wanted to create an invoice, you might jump into our new button. You're going to click in to invoice. And that's going to open up. As you are typing in the customer name, so if you had typed in a customer name that you had previously created an estimate for, when you type in this customer name, it's actually going to give you the option. It'll come right over here. It's going to say, hey, do you want to use this estimate and actually make that into an invoice? And it's just going to be a few quick clicks, and that will actually take all the information off of your estimate and copy that over to an invoice. And my apologies that the internet's lagging today because I'm not able to actually populate some of these items for you and show you how simple that is. But if you type in, if you had already created an estimate for somebody and you type in their name to create an invoice, it's actually going to ask you if you wanted to just make that estimate into an invoice. Okay. So guys, I know that was really a whirlwind and a lot of information happening in there. I just wanted to kind of do a quick summary here. And great. Yeah, let me just do a real quick summary for you. And as I mentioned, if anyone is interested, I'd be happy to send around this information at the end as far as the slides. But I just wanted to kind of cover what we covered today, right? Some basic navigation, the 3 different areas, setting up your company, customizing the look and feel, as well as creating those templates for your invoices. We showed you where to add customers and vendors in that navigation bar, add some products and services also in that navigation bar, and the new transactions, which we did with the new button. The only other things that I wanted to say here, and I'm going to hand it back to you, is as far as resources go, this is just one of many steps as far as maybe learning about QuickBooks. So, there's always MCSC, giving them a call. They can link you up to somebody. If you just have one-off questions, you're trying to troubleshoot, they can connect you with maybe a CPA or bookkeeper to be able to ask that. There's tons of online learning resources, which I have a few slides to offer you, my go-tos. There's also something called QuickBooks Live, which I haven't gotten to try yet, but they do have the option to speak with live bookkeepers in QuickBooks. So I think it might be a service that you have to sign up for on, but something to look into as far as being able to ask people on the fly. I really hope that this was helpful for you. And let's see.
Ali, it definitely was. The comments, everybody's thanking you. Somebody says very useful information. We truly thank you. It was excellent. I think it's great and practical information, clear advice for all the small business owners. And we have upcoming events. To all of you, I really thank you for joining us today. Thank you again, Ali, and I hope to see you soon.